Spring, 845 AD. A heavy sense of foreboding hung over eastern England. The sky was thick with clouds and the air carried an ominous tension, a storm waiting to break. Far off on the horizon, silhouettes of ships appeared. No mere handful, but a vast fleet. Ragnar Lothbrok's ships were approaching, ready to set foot on the land he had long coveted. The winds grew colder, but for Ragnar, this cold was familiar, like a signal, a warning deep in his soul. In the far northern lands he was known, but here in this foreign territory, his name could either bring him eternal glory or consume him. There was no time for fear, no place for hesitation, only action. When his fleet finally touched the shores of eastern England, it was swift. The ships cut through the waters like the blade of a knife, gliding effortlessly to the land. The warriors aboard were ready. The time for words had passed. Ragnar stood at the prow of his ship, his eyes fixed on the horizon, a cold determination burning within him. He saw the land before him, a land he had long desired, yet it was still untamed, untarnished by the fear of invaders. Ragnar knew that this land would either kneel before him or resist to the very end. There was no middle ground. The morning was dark and shrouded in mist, as though the earth itself was trying to hide its fear. The villagers along the shore knew nothing of the impending doom. They were busy with their daily tasks, unaware that death was marching toward them. The simple farmers just beginning their spring planting did not expect the storm that was about to sweep over them. The stillness of the dawn was shattered by the roar of war. The Vikings surged forward, a tidal wave of fury. The village was unprepared. Buildings were set ablaze. The people tried to flee, but they were too slow. The roar of battle filled the air, the clash of steel against flesh, the cries of the fallen. This was the way of the North, the ancient rhythm of war. As the settlement burned and chaos unfolded, Ragnar watched from the edge of the destruction. His men were ruthless, taking everything, gold, cattle, food. But for Ragnar, it wasn't just about the plunder. He had a greater purpose. He was not here merely to raid. He was here to prove his power, to establish his legend. This land, this kingdom, it had to bend before him, or it would be swallowed whole. The destruction was quick, but it was not enough. Ragnar and his army pressed deeper into the heart of England. Days passed, and the tension in the air grew thicker. As they neared London, Ragnar could feel the weight of destiny pressing on him. This city, this grand target, was surrounded by walls, tall and formidable. The people here were different, better prepared. The fight ahead would not be so easy. When the Vikings finally reached London, they were met with resistance unlike anything they had faced before. This was no scattered village. It was a well-defended stronghold. The air buzzed with the tension of a fierce battle to come. The walls of the city stood tall, a testament to its defenders' determination. Ragnar's warriors, accustomed to swift victories, found themselves caught in a much harder struggle. Days turned into nights as the siege began. Ragnar, ever the leader, stood alone on the walls of his camp, his eyes fixed on the distant lights of London. In the quiet of that night, with the fog swirling around him like a cloak, he knew that this moment, this battle, would define everything. It was no longer just about conquest. It was about proving himself, about forging a legacy. The drums of war echoed through the Viking camp, a signal to the warriors that the final assault was near. Tired and battle-worn, the men gathered for one last push. Ragnar knew this battle was different. It wasn't just a fight for land or gold. It was a fight for his soul, for his very place in the annals of history. He had come to this land not simply to conquer, but to become a legend. And legends, he knew, were forged in the fires of hardship. As the final battle raged, Ragnar fought not just for victory, but for something deeper. The clash of swords, the shouts of men, the sound of steel on steel, it all became a blur. But through it all, Ragnar understood that this war, this invasion, was more than just bloodshed. It was about destiny, about the price of immortality. And when the battle ended, when the smoke cleared and the dust settled, Ragnar stood victorious. The city had fallen, but as he looked over the smoldering ruins, a strange emptiness filled him. The glory he had fought for felt distant, as though it had already slipped through his grasp. The shadow that had followed him through every battle, every conquest, had finally caught up with him. And in that moment, Ragnar Lothbrok understood that no matter how many victories he claimed, no matter how many kingdoms he conquered, there was always a price to pay, and the cost of his destiny was far greater than he had ever imagined. But this is only the beginning of Ragnar's journey. His legend is far from complete. The path ahead is filled with even greater challenges, and the shadows of his past will continue to haunt him. Stay tuned for the next chapter of Ragnar Lothbrok's story will unfold in the next videos.